Hi, this is Andrew from Throwlights, and today I'm going to walk you through two fixes if you're having issues with your Inova reboots. And the first fix is simply cleaning the board with rubbing alcohol, and the second fix is the battery bar fix. So to do the first one, we're going to go ahead and clean the board with isopropyl rubbing alcohol. So I'm going to remove the bottom, and I'm going to pop the chip out. Looks like that LED is trying to come out with it, but I'll get it in there, and we've got the chip out. So I'm going to remove the batteries, and what we're going to need is a toothbrush, and we're also going to need the highest percentage isopropyl rubbing alcohol that we can find. So what I've got here is 99%. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently clean the board with the toothbrush. Both sides. And I want to be careful around this button because there is a piece of tape there that holds the button on. So I don't want to accidentally scrub that off. But I do want to get all these electrical contacts around here. And what this is basically doing is just removing any oils or any dirt that's causing interference. So after a nice scrub there, nice gentle scrub, I'm going to let it dry. So I'm going to give it a minute or two to do that. 2 minutes to be safe, and I'll be right back. All right, so we are back. The chip is now definitely dry. And what I went ahead and did was I actually cleaned off the batteries as well. I cleaned off each side of both batteries using the toothbrush and rubbing alcohol. And what that's essentially doing is just making sure all of the surfaces are clean of any dirt, oils, or debris that would prevent a good electrical connection from taking place. So you'd be surprised, even cleaning off the batteries can be a big help here because, we're just handling these chips all the time. There's oils on our fingers, and we're not really supposed to handle chips all that often, but in gloving, you kind of have to when you're changing batteries and all that jazz. So doing this cleaning procedure just really helps out and will ensure that your chips stay nice and functioning smoothly, just like that. All right, so that was cleaning the chip. All right, so the next fix that I'm going to show you is the battery bar. So let me go ahead and pop this chip out here. This is not the best tool for that, but there we go. What you have here is a battery bar that needs to make a nice tight hold on the batteries. And what can happen over time is that the battery bar can kind of come unbent, which makes the hold not quite as firm. So what we can do to help that out a bit is we can take a nice pair of needle nose pliers like this. And you can see right here where the bend starts. And so I can just take my pliers here and just help that out a bit and just give it a nice little bend back down. Just ensuring that it keeps this nice firm hold on the batteries. All right. So go ahead and put my batteries back in, and it feels already nicer. Feels like the battery's making a nice firm connection and really holding the batteries in place. Even if I move this chip around, the batteries stay right there. And then before I put this casing back on, I do want to show one other thing. You can see at the bottom of this casing that there's a Velcro piece. And I'll show on the original Inova bottom that there's also something there. In this case, it's a sort of like spongy substance, almost like a piece of hot glue. And what that essentially does is, I'll show right here, when you put the chip into the casing, that little piece right there is intended to put pressure on the battery bar to just ensure that it makes a nice firm contact with the batteries. So what can also happen over time is that this Velcro piece can become deformed just from time. So what you can do is, just to test if that's causing an issue, is you can place an extra little piece of paper in here, which is just going to create an extra little bit of pressure within the casing, and you can close the case on top of that little paper in there, and see if that helps. And if that fixes your issue, then you can switch to something a little bit more permanent, like replacing the Velcro with a small dab of hot glue. But that might not be necessary. It might be that bending the battery bar back down with pliers is sufficient to fix any battery bar issues. So there we go. That is the battery bar fix. I do want to show you guys one last thing too, just in case the tape on the button does come off. So let's go ahead and just remove that tape. And I'll show you how to replace it, just in case that happens by accident. All right, so I just pulled that tape off, and you can see what it looks like. You have a little button there, and it's just held on by this piece of tape. And that's how factory Inovas have always been. It's just a metal pad that's stuck on the chip by a piece of tape. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take that tape all the way off the metal pad. I'm going to give it a nice, nothing too crazy. I'll give it a nice scrub down with some rubbing alcohol. And I'll do that on the metal pad as well. All right, and I'm going to give that a couple minutes to dry and be right back. All right, so I'm going to quickly show the tools that we're going to need to make this happen. We're going to need some clear packing tape just like this. We're going to need a nice pair of scissors. You might need to use these pliers. And you're also going to need an X-Acto knife. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start this tape off, and we're going to be careful not to get any fingerprints on there. But we're going to cut off a piece that's roughly about the same width as the piece that we just cut off. But it can be any length you want, as we're going to end up trimming that down with the X-Acto knife. So I'm going to have to use both hands here. And, all right, this is a little bit tricky. But there we are. I got the piece of tape that I'm going to use. I'm just going to leave that there, stuck there on the scissors. And I'm going to grab this little button here. I'm going to line it up on the board. And you're going to be able to see these 3 electrical pads here. I'm going to move the button so you can see them. They're in a triangle shape there. And the button itself is also a triangle. So you're going to want to line that button up so that these 3 divots here all align with those buttons, with those pads in that triangle there. So once I've got that nice and lined up, and I'll show you once I do, the button's a little sticky. I'm going to get that nice and lined up. All right. I think I still need to get it on there. There we go. It is nice and lined up on there now. So I'm going to now go ahead and put the tape I have right on top of that. All right. This is a little bit delicate procedure, but let's go ahead and do that. So now that I've got the button on the tape there, I'm going to secure it down. It's a little bit off center, so I'm going to scooch it over. And there we go. I think I've got that nice and lined up, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, make sure this is nice and the tape's nice and pressed on the board, and I'm just going to trace around the edges of the board with the X-Acto knife, and just it's a little bit tough to get in there, but I'm just going to basically cut that tape off. All right, there we are. I think I did a pretty decent job on that. That button shouldn't be going anywhere. I'm gonna stick my batteries back in and just confirm that it worked.
Well,
And it worked. Hope this helps.